Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 112. Shizun is not to be sullied. He is talking about what happened on the first day of Moran's rebirth. In his previous life, Rongju did wronged and collaborated with young Master Chang to ruin his life, but that was in his previous life. In this life, Rongju hadn't reached the stage with young Master Chang, so what he did out of resentment was quite hard to explain. I'm at fault. At this point, Moran did not want to argue with him, so he just said, I'll pay you back. I'll give back what I took from you then. How are you going to pay me back? Asked Rongju. Besides, what's the use of having back all that gold and jewelry at this moment? Moran. And even if you can give back my precious items, what about my life? Can you give back my life? What? Moran was stunned. Your life? Yes, my life. Rongju seemed to have touched a wound somewhere in his heart, and his expression gradually sank down. Do you know how I died? He had probably been repressing it for a long time, and when the lid was suddenly lifted, all the steam underneath came out in a frenzy, and before Moran could make a sound, he continued sorrowfully, his expression suddenly becoming furious and then twisted. That Chang was a vicious man. When he saw that you no longer liked me, he thought I was no longer worth anything, so he lied to me and said that he was sincere in his treatment of me, but that his family thought I am unclean as I work in a brothel and that it would be better if we have less contact for the meanwhile. I was so blind that I thought he was deeply in love with me and that he was only forced to make this decision by his parents. I believed all his bullshit. Moran said, then you should blame the Chang family. Why blame me? Rongju was slightly angered. Why won't I blame you? The money I had saved was enough to buy my freedom. I didn't want to stay in the brothel any longer, but I couldn't leave without the money, so I had to run away. If you didn't take what's mine, how would I be in such a sorry state? You got away. Yes, I escaped. I fled to his house. Rongju hated, but that Chang man refused to open the door for me, and the men from the brothel who were chasing me caught up with me. In the end I struggled to no avail and was still taken back by them. I was beaten and tortured, and then got locked up again. Moran mused, but young Master Chang said that you were visiting relatives in Kaidi town when the bride ghost was rampaging, and that's how you lost your life. Ha! A hint of mockery creased Rongju's shadowy face. He has the nerve to say that. I have relatives in Kaidi town. What relatives? Didn't you tell me that this is living under the tip of a knife? I'll tell you what it means to really live under the tip of a knife. Rongju was getting more and more agitated, his features were almost twisted, he was really the embodiment of vengeful ghost at this moment. I'll tell you how I died, my dear benefactor, haha. I was locked up in the brothel for such a long time, without food, suffering. No one cared if I lived or died. After so many days, I was getting desperate. Then that man named Chang suddenly came back, crying and telling me that the reason he didn't open the door for me that day was because his parents were very angry at that time and that he was afraid for my life as he thought his parents might order the servants to beat me to death if I went in. Moran shook his head at such a blatant lie. How can you believe that? No. The light in Rongju's eyes trembled. I believe it. Moran. I believe it, ah. Rongju resentment soared to the sky as the corners of his mouth twisted into a bitter smile. How can I not believe it? Only those who have a way out have the luxury to believe and not to believe. What am I is but a seller of flesh. What others doubt, I believe. Otherwise, there won't even be a glimmer of hope. He slowed down and continued. The man named Chang told me that he would keep his promise and take me into his home. But said his parents couldn't accept me at the moment and asked me to go with him to a nearby town for the time being. In Kaidi town? Right. Kaidi town. Moran had a vague idea of what was going to happen, and his expression sank. As expected, Rongju said, I packed up my things happily. Oh right, there's actually was nothing left to pack. All the money I had earned from selling my flesh and blood over the years was stolen by yours truly. At that time, I thought it doesn't matter because I have young Master Chang. Het. He was a little more silent and gave a twitching smile. Then he bit his lips and said, young Master Changda. Did he trick you into going to Kaidi town and then killed you there? No. Rongju laughed, his eyes holding bitterness. It wasn't him who got me killed. It was you who blocked my path again and again even before I got into the boat with him. It was you. You were the one who got me killed. Rongju took a deep breath and continued, when we arrived in Kaidi town, I followed that Chang man into a large mansion, but it was cold and empty inside, there were no servants. He told me that he hadn't had time to do anything yet, and asked me to rest in the mansion while he went out to buy something. I stayed there and waited, and after a while I saw him came into the courtyard with a man. Mo Ran suddenly paled when he heard this and asked, did you see the man's face? No. Rongju said, the man was wearing a mask and a cloak, so I couldn't see anything. Then I saw that Chang man kneeling down in front of the man, his face smiling even more fawningly than when I was taking clients. He, himself ought to have seen how he looked at that moment, it was disgusting. He told the man that I had some remnant of wood spiritual essence in me, that I had been intimate with you earlier and was a good sacrifice. Who knows? I don't cultivate and I don't want to be a cultivator either. I didn't understand what they were talking about. Mo Ran, however, felt a tingling in his scalp. He knew clearly that he had been intimate with Rongju before, so he would at least have some wood spiritual essence with him. That fake Goshen had been looking for a suitable substitute. Although the spiritual energy lingering in Rongju's body was insignificant, it was still pure and was indeed suitable for casting spells. There's no need to say what happened afterwards. A rare bone-piercing coldness appeared on the face of Rongju, who was used to being frivolous. As young Master Mo saw, I'm dead. If it was the Mo Ran from his previous life or the newly reborn Mo Ran, he would have scoffed and said, so what if you died? What does it have to do with me? However, at the moment, Mo Ran can't even smile. He hated Rongju, and Rongju was indeed unscrupulous, as he wouldn't hesitate to resort to any means. Although he and Rongju had sexual relationship before, they were never honest to each other. Now, having heard these confessions from him in the underworld, Mo Ran couldn't help but had mixed feelings. After giving it some thought, he felt that it was impossible for him to calculate the matter properly. Thus, he decided to just let it be. He sighed and said, Rongju, I'm sorry about this. In his entire life, no one had ever said sorry to him. The stunned Rongju looked at Mo Ran as if he didn't recognize him at all. He looked him up and down with wide eyes and said, even if you apologize, I won't tell you where the person in the portrait is. Mo Ran replied, it has nothing to do with the portrait. Rongju lowered his head, paused for a moment, and suddenly spoke. Young Master Mo, do you know that Chang Man was scheming with me to kill you and steal your cultivation? I know. You know. Mo Ran nodded. I know. After a moment of contemplation, Rongju said bitterly, it must be that Chang Man who leaked the information. He raised his head again, and his eyes flashed with anger. If I knew that this would happen in the end, I might as well listen to him and kill you. There will always be some good days for us to live, and we won't die so miserably. Mo Ran looked at him. Do you just do what other tell you to do? So what? Said Rongju, I just want to live a good life. For example, is it wrong for me to sell my body, just like how other people sell fish and meat to earn a living? I know you gentlemen look down on me, but it doesn't matter if you look down on me. Pride and shame are not as useful as a mouthful of good wine and a piece of roast meat. So, If I could have survived if I had killed you in the first place, why wouldn't I make such a move against you? Mo Ran's lips twitched as he was about to retort, but suddenly he remembered what he had done in his previous life and was unable to say anything to deny his words. Rongju said indignantly, if people kill birds for its meat in order to live, why can't they kill people for the sake of living? Mo Ran sighed and muttered, is there any point in living like this? It was like he was asking Rongju. It was also like asking the self on the high seat of the previous life across the red dust. I don't know. I don't know what is the point. Rongju said indifferently, I was sold to the brothel to receive customers since I was 16, and my first customer was an old Taoist priest in his 50s. You ask me what's the point, I don't know. As long as I lived. I wanted to have money to buy my freedom so I wouldn't have to pull a smile on my face and serve others. But I was never free until I died, and it was all because of you bastard. Mo Ran didn't say anything, and only after a long while did he ask him, I'll give you one more chance, would you still choose to work with young Master Chang and kill me? That's right. Mo Ran said, all right, give me another chance and I will still turn around and roll up all your money and make you suffer. You. Rongju was enraged. The red tint on his face seemed to become even more brilliant. His body shook for a while before slowly calming down. After a while, knowing that he had lost his composure, he lifted his hand and ran it through his hair before putting on his usual gentle smile, but his eyes still flashed with anger. Say what you will. I, Rongju, have my own way of living. May you live at ease in the ghost realm. Rongju narrowed his eyes, that would be very easy, as long as I lie down in bed, I will be able to reincarnate without suffering. I can see it more clearly than those fools in the room. I am not unwilling like them. Mo Ran smiled and said, but Rongju, these people are only the subordinates of the fourth king. Whether you die or live, whether you stay or go, it actually depends on a word from above. Rongju was startled and became vigilant as he stared at him with his beautiful eyes. What do you mean? If it were not for this situation, Mo Ran would not have continued to reason with him. However, even though Rongju had a weak personality, he could not bring himself to hate him. So, he had to calm down and tell him, you think the man in the portrait is nothing more than that, but I think he is very good. Everyone looks at things differently and no one can say whether the fourth king will choose him or not. With such an ice-cold appearance, who would want him? That's not necessarily true. If the ghost king likes soft people, why not choose you then? Rongju didn't say anything, but his expression was a bit unsightly. Mo Ran strikes while the iron is hot, he is a man with a strong temper. If he were chosen, he would probably turn the entire ghost realm upside down. When the time came for them to be found guilty, the fourth king would be blamed for their actions. Killing a few of the ghost soldiers would not be an issue. If you're going to be a silhouette, you have to be sure of your position. If the tree falls just a few days after you've wrapped it around you, it's a small matter that you won't have anything to fall back on, but if you're pulled up with your vines and roots, your soul will be scattered. Rongju's originally pale face seemed to become even paler. But he still said coquettishly yet viciously, I don't believe this evil. Mo Ran. Young Master Mo, I bet you just couldn't bear to see me live better than you do. After a few moments of silence, Mo Ran suddenly became ruthless as well, and he stared at Rongju's face, I am not kidding you. Rongju, I must save this person. If you really want to play like this, I'll fight with my life. Rongju raised his head, his eyes burning, and suddenly placed his hand on Mo Ran's chest like how would a snake or a scorpion do. Who is he to you? How long have I been with you? Was it long? When he's in bed with you, does he play more tricks, or does he moan better? He paused, his eyelashes fluttering. Young Master Mo, you aren't the kind of person who would risk your life for someone. You're a man who has no love in his heart and you can't hide it from me. Before the words were out of his mouth, Mo Ran pinched his cheek hard. Mo Ran carried him away, his pitch-black eyebrows raised as flames danced in his eyes. I didn't have a heart in the past, but now I do. Rongju looked up and saw his face. It was hot, almost unfamiliar. He seemed to still be the laughing and cursing Mo Weiyu, but his soul seemed to be different. He winced as if he was scalded by such Mo Ran and tried to turn and run away, only to be put in a death grip. Moreover, Mo Ran said, with him, from now on things would be pure and innocent. I respect him and love him and have no delusions of grandeur. Don't you dare insult him. As he said this, he pushed Rongju, who crashed into the pillar and looked at the man in front of him in disbelief. He didn't even think carefully about what kind of odd expression this was. From now on things would be pure and innocent. If he had been in a right frame of mind, he would have been able to figure out the subtlety of it. From now on, things would be pure and innocent. In other words, things weren't innocent before. But Rongju couldn't figure it out. He's not yours. He couldn't be with you. Mo Ran said, no, he's my Shizun. Rongju didn't say anything more. It was just that for a person like him, he could always smell some subtle feelings between the lines. Perhaps he didn't even realize that, but Rongju could still smell it. He was almost certain that Mo Ran was in love with the person in the portrait, and the thought gave rise to a bitter jealousy in a man who could not get any love at all. The most flamboyant of them all, young Master Mo, will also go to the edge of the sword for a person and risk his life to save them. He suddenly wondered, if he had been more sincere with young Master Mo, and honestly give him his heart, would Mo Ran have shown some pure and true love for himself? However, before he could finish his thought, Mo Ran spoke again. His voice was fierce and cold, totally serious. Rongju, let me ask you one last time, where is he? If you still do not know, then, I am a cultivator, so I am very clear on how to use medicine or magic to bewitch a person's mind. Believe it or not, I am not beyond seeing the Ghost King myself. This time, Rongju was completely shocked. I've been guilty all my life, and now I want to be good. But if there is no one who can help me, then I will act the same as the old Mo Weiyu. He said softly, Rongju, think it over. I am not afraid of death, nor am I afraid of my soul being scattered. I am desperate and I will do anything. Neither of them then said anything more. Just eyes meeting, the rigid meets the resentful, the stubborn meets the resigned, the hot meets the cold. And then the ice in Rongju's eyes melted, and he almost crumbled under the glare of Mo Ran's burning gaze. His jealousy and hatred was very deep, but Mo Ran's obsession was not shallow as well. He was no match for the Emperor Taxian Jun. Rongju's face was ashen. Even though his rouge blossoms were beautiful, they were unable to cover his haggard face. He looked as if a wall had been broken. Why do you want to do this for him? Why would you go to this length? He treated me the best, and I bullied him like he was the most hated person. I owe him. I have indeed not seen this person. After a long time, Rongju said softly, but seeing Mo Ran's expression, he slowly added, I am not lying to you. But the newly captured ghosts are all locked up in the largest hall in the east side. One small room for one person, no different from a cage, and it's locked. There are strong guards patrolling back and forth. If you go there, you should be able to find them. Mo Ran could not wait any longer. He turned around and prepared to run into the darkness. It was unknown what sort of emotion welled up in his heart, but Rongju suddenly shouted at Mo Ran's back, Mo Weiyu, you want to live a good life. Who can live a good life? We are all people who have been soaked in mud. We can never get cleaned again. Mo Weiyu. You see, I'm going to live a good life. I'm going to die a good death. I would live comfortably. I sold my body and my soul. I'm going to wear gold and silver. Just watch. Do you think you can wipe the smell off by wiping the corners of your mouth when you get dirt in your bones? You wish. From your kindness, I will be whoring myself. Let us see who can live a good life. Ah! Mo Wee-oo! He yelled until Mo Ran's back was out of sight, then he suddenly raised his hand, covered his face and crouched down to choke on a sob. Why do you get the chance start again? Why do people treat you well even when you're so rotten? Why? End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 113. Shizun, imprisoned. The courtyard on the east side was just as Rongju said it was. There were 3 floors above and below, each floor is filled with rooms. Although the courtyard is the largest, it is also the dirtiest. There was a decadent old tree at the entrance of the courtyard, with countless dead crows perched on it, each with an eye in its beak, skittering around frantically, scanning the surroundings for signs of trouble. 2 small squads of ghost soldiers were moving back and forth, kicking and stomping, guarding the tributes to be offered to the 4th king. Mo Ran stood behind the corner, calculating the path of the ghosts as he surveyed the dead corner of the palace. Lights were lit in the small, lattice-like rooms. From time to time, the weeping and sighing of ghosts could be heard from inside, and they gathered together. The night was like an ancient eulogy, making one's hair stand on end, shivering with fear. There are more than 300 rooms here. Each round of patrolling would repeat every period of time one would take to drink a single cup of tea. It was impossible for Mo Ran to find Chu Wanning in this small span of time. Not to mention the fact that there was a ghost guard at the entrance to each staircase, carrying a soul-crushing whip and a whistle around his neck. Mo Ran was anxious, but then he saw a ghost walking alone in the distance, a token with red letters on a black background hanging from his waist and wearing the same clothes as the guards. Mo Ran stepped back into the shadows and watched him walk past to the front of the stairs. The ghost nodded with the guards stationed to the steps. The night was very quiet, so Mo Ran easily overheard their conversation. 7th brother, are you here to change Lao San's post? Your shift will be over soon, too. I have to stay a little longer, the man hasn't come yet. I'll rest when he arrives. The guard who came moved upstairs while the one on the ground floor yawned in boredom and continued to keep watch. Seeing this exchange, Mo Ran suddenly had an idea that was a bit risky. From the distance came the sound of 3 claps and 2 clicks. The crows on the branch cried out twice, as if they had noticed something strange. The watchman guarding the entrance came to his senses and looked around to see a figure walking slowly through the thin night mist. As he got closer, he realized that it was a young man he had never seen before, and the guard became increasingly wary. Who is it? I'm here to relieve your post, the man said. Red clouds drifted by, revealing the full moon in the sky, illuminating the man's face. Such a handsome ghost soldier. But his features are straight and well defined, his eyebrows and eyes are full of natural affection. Who is this ghost coming to change the other's post if not Mo Ran? Somehow, he had gotten a ghost soldier uniform and put it on. The black and red token at his waist swayed uncontrollably and the guard whistle hung on his chest, emitting a cold silvery light. The guard said, I haven't seen you before. I'm new here. The guard held out his hand in disbelief, the token. Mo Ran untied the tag and handed it to him. His face was still but inside he was tense to the core. Fortunately, the guard turned the token over and over several times and did not notice anything wrong with it, so he did not bother anymore. He patted him on the shoulder and said, then I'm counting on you for the rest of the night. I'm going home. Very well, senior. Being called senior, the ghost laughed strangely twice and waved his hand. Good boy. See you later. Ah. Senior, wait a minute. What is it? The guard turned around. Moran smiled and asked naturally, how many of the tributes are surnamed Chu? The ghost guard was a little wary. Why do you ask that? I'm asking on behalf of Lord Chu from Shunfeng House. Moran said, he has a distant relative who had recently arrived in Nanttown. But Shunfeng House can't find him, so I was wondering if he's here. As expected, Chu Sun's reputation carries some weight. The guard hesitated for a moment and then pointed to the first floor. The people inside the 3 locked rooms closest to the back are all surnamed Chu. You can go and have a look. Moran smiled and said, thank you for your guidance, senior. You're welcome. The former was very stupid. Carry on. As the guard said this, he walked away, humming a little tune, not noticing as he passed the corner that his real colleague, who was supposed to change his post, had already been tied up with a restraining spell and thrown into the gutter. The poor ghost was stripped naked of his armor, revealing a thin veneer of rage, but his mouth was completely gagged and he could not even hum, so he could only sulk. Moran is not sure about Rongju. Although the unsuccessful tributes are locked up in groups in the side halls, and no one is watching them, with only a forbidden spell has been cast outside, it is not guaranteed that there will be ghost soldiers patrolling. With how much Rongju hated him, he would definitely reveal his whereabouts when the time came. There is no time to lose. He must act quickly. Moran stood still for a moment, waiting for the wave of soldiers moving back and forth to pass, then immediately dodged and headed straight for the first floor, where a guard also stood, crossing his lance to stop Moran. Stop, what are you doing? I'm new here, just started today. I'm on the ground floor. The guard wrinkled his brow. Then what are you doing on my floor when you're stationed on the ground floor? Moran used Chu Sun's name again as a door knocker, but the guard didn't buy it and said sternly, even if it's Lord Chu from Shunfeng House, as long as he enters the palace, he would belong to the 4th king. If he wanted to save his own relatives, he can talk to the 4th king himself. I don't want to be involved in this. Moran complained to himself, thinking that this guy was much more smarter than the one downstairs. He had to put his head together and say, I don't have to take him away today. I only want to confirm that it's not the wrong man. That should be fine. Just give me the name and I can check it out for you. Why do you have to go in? Moran said, feeling agitated and holding down his anger. Chu Wanning. His name is Chu Wanning. The guard was going to check the list of names, but when he heard this name, he dropped the register instead. Seeing him act this way, Moran suddenly felt uneasy and asked, what's wrong? What's the problem? What's the problem? The guard asked with a cold smile, and then he said, you really are a newcomer who doesn't know how high the sky and how deep the earth is. The 4th king had come to the palace today to admire the beauty of this man. They had long since taken a fancy to this cultivator Chu. If it wasn't for the fact that this person had a head of 7 or 8 and had yet to gather all 3 of his souls and couldn't bring them to the 4th level of hell, he would most likely be given to the 4th king tonight, and you want to take him. You tell me what the problem is. Moran's face was already ashen by the time he heard half of it, and only after the guard had finished did he murmured, the 4th king have taken a fancy to him. What? Nothing. Then forget it. Sorry to bother you. Moran turned around grimly, took 2 steps downstairs, and then before the ghost guard could react, Mo Ran's godly weapon, which had suddenly appeared in the palm of his hand, was flipped and strangled around the ghost guard's neck. A red light flashed. It was said that godly weapons can hurt ghosts and kill gods. The ghost guard only managed to see a glimpse of the scarlet willow leaves fluttering in front of him. He heard the new young guard said, "Do you really think I wouldn't dare to snatch someone from the Ghost King?" before he lost consciousness and fell to the ground. Mo Ran cast a spell with his hand, tied him up tightly, gagged him and kicked him aside, then ran impatiently towards the end of the corridor. There are 3 rooms at the end, each one of them holding a soul with the surname Chu. Mo Ran couldn't explain this strange sensation, but somehow, he had a feeling of knowing the right door to go to. He then opened that door with a bang, panting slightly from the rush of running, and found himself standing in front of a second pavilion. As he gasped for breath, a wisp of fine, ink-colored hair fell in front of his eyes. He forgot to brush it away and only focused on what was inside. Rongju was right. This was a single room about the size of a cage, with 4 bleak walls and everything in a dead gray color. Only the person inside seemed warm, like a flame in a blanket of cold white. Not every tribute is in chains, at least not Chu Wanning. Perhaps because he had already been chosen by the 4th king, the guards did not dare to offend him. The floor of his room was even covered in snowy white animal fur, thick and soft as a fresh snowfall in the middle of winter. Chu Wanning lay asleep on the felt. This man might appear ruthless in battle, but is actually a little bit insecure at heart. This is most obvious when he is asleep, as he has a habit of curling up and shrinking himself down to a small size. It was as if he was warming himself, but it also seemed as if he was afraid to take up anyone's empty space. The thin figure seemed somewhat pitiful. This earth soul is different from his human soul. He is not bloodied at all and only appears as his beautiful, handsome self. His clothes had also been changed. He was dressed in a red silk dress that was as bright as the sunset, with a wide robe, big sleeves, decorated with coiling dragons, flying phoenixes, and golden butterflies dancing in the air. Mo Ran almost staggered forward, kneeling beside him and reaching out his trembling hand to caress Chu Wanning's face. Wanning. The word that came out of his mouth wasn't Shizun, but the name that he was used to calling him in his last days in his previous life. The hatred for the sea of blood entered into his bones and lingered there. Chu Wanning woke up after a long while as he carried him in his arms. When Chu Wanning opened his eyes, he saw himself leaning against Mo Ran's chest. When he saw the boyish face of the young man in front of him, he had never been so concerned. He thought it might be a dream, so he frowned, sighed, and closed his eyes again. Shizun. Someone called to him. This time Mo Ran didn't call him Wanning. Shizun. Shizun. Chu Wanning suddenly opened his phoenix eyes. Although his facial expression remained unchanged, his fingertips betrayed him, causing him to tremble slightly. The next moment, Mo Ran grabbed his hand and pressed it against his face, laughing and crying at the same time. Despite his handsome appearance, he had become so awkward and out of control. Shizun. He choked with sobs. His eyes stared at him unblinkingly, as if he could not say anything, but could not stop repeating, Shizun. Chu Wanning, who was being tightly held, finally came back to his senses and felt that something was wrong, so he broke away from Mo Ran and suddenly stood up to stare at him. He was stunned for a long time and did not say a word. Then suddenly, he got enraged. Before Mo Ran could react, Chu Wanning's hand was withdrawn and then he slapped Mo Ran across the face with a backhand, his black eyebrows raised in anger as if his sword was ready to fly out at any moment. "Bastard, why are you dead too?" Mo Ran opened his mouth, but just as he was about to explain, he suddenly saw that under the hazy moonlight, although Chu Wanning's anger was raging, his eyes were sad, as if he was unwilling to accept the fact and was ready to shatter at any moment. When he had finished scolding, he bit his lower lip and tried to hold in the choking sobs that made him feel humiliated and disgraced. There are some people when they got cut, they would wish for the entire world to know that they were injured. However, there were some people who were so proud. They would suffer grievances and hardships in silence, and even if their throats would be full of blood, they would still swallow them whole and would not tell others. If he hadn't said it, Mo Ran wouldn't have known either. Now that he knew, he couldn't help but feel heartbroken. He wanted to hug Chu Wanning. But Chu Wanning pushed him away and said hoarsely, "Get lost." Chu Wanning turned his face sideways, a layer of cold hardness covering a million wounds. "You died at such a young age, what face do you have to come and see me?" "Shizun. Get out. The relationship between us as Shizun and disciple has been broken. Yuhang, will not accept trash who died in his prime." Died in his prime. Mo Ran was originally sad, but after hearing him reprimand him in such a matter-of-fact manner, he suddenly felt a warmth in his heart, as if spring water was gushing out of his body. He clapped his forehead with his hands and then covered his eyes. He couldn't help but laugh bitterly. When Chu Wanning heard his gentle laughter, he became even angrier. He turned around and said sternly, "What are you laughing at, you?" Annoyed, he wanted to slap Mo Ran on the face again, but his hand was caught by Mo Ran. The youth's warm eyes blinked slowly and did not speak. He only took his hand and laid it solemnly over his chest. End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 114. Shizun, say you will. Thump. 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 The heartbeat is both heavy and slow. Chu Wanning blinked along with him. His eyes were full of surprise and joy, embarrassment and hesitation. However, Elder Yu Hung was true to his reputation of being calm and collected. No one can be faster than him when it comes to suppressing his emotions and schooling his expression. Soon he looked as if he was not the one who had been angry and disappointed at Mo Ran. "If you are not dead, what are you doing here?" When he asked this question, Chu Wanning immediately regretted it. Seeing Mo Ran's expression, it was obvious that he was here to save him. However, if Mo Ran said those words to him personally, Chu Wanning was afraid that his heart would stop beating and his mind would go into chaos. In his nervousness, he even forgot that he was already dead. How could his heart beat? But Mo Ran stared straight at him, but did not speak in this way. He probably knew that if he said "I came for you," he would make Chu Wanning feel awkward and confused. Therefore, he pondered slightly and finally pursed his lips. He then lowered his eyelashes and asked gently, "Shizun, guess why I came here?" "You came here to look for trouble." "Shizun, when did you change your name?" Mo Ran laughed, "You didn't tell me." Chu Wanning was struck by this unprecedented gentleness he had never felt before. He quickly withdrew his hand, furious and ashamed. Nonsense, how presumptuous. Mo Ran had finally discovered a secret. He realized that Chu Wanning's anger was a mask. This man is so awkward that he would rather cover his face with this fawning mask when his emotions got complicated. It's so stupid. Chu Wanning is so silly. He's been wearing a mask all his life and seems not tired of it yet. Moran also realized that he was foolish himself for needing to live two lives before knowing this fact. However, after these words were spoken, the atmosphere was no longer as solemn as it was before. He had found all of Chu Wanning's souls and was looking forward to his rebirth. Moran was in a good mood, so he took Chu Wanning by the hand again and rambled on about why he had come to the netherworld and about Master Huizhui. When he got to a certain point of his story, he couldn't help but stop, and only when the lump in his throat subsided, did he continued with his eyes red. The words that appeared most frequently in his explanation were "I'm sorry." Chu Wanning really didn't know what to say. He certainly didn't treat the other well in exchange for something, though he was also afraid of being taken advantage of. In fact, he was very scared of showing or offering his feelings in case the other party just casually push it aside. And so, while he was straightforward and honest, he has hidden a part of himself under a cover. But then one day, the person he liked reached out his hand and straight away removed the anger that he had been using to mask himself, as if removing the shell that he had cocooned himself in. He stood there in a daze, not knowing what to do. At that moment, Moran had knelt down in front of him, one hand still holding his, as if he was afraid that if he let go, Chu Wanning would disappear. Chu Wanning had a moment of absurd and shameful thought. His disciple had always been bold and unconventional, and when he was suddenly held in Moran's hand and treated in this way, it seemed to him that he was trying to do something. He was shocked by this thought of his. His expression became more and more gloomy. He did not know exactly what expression to make, so he could only act as he was accustomed to, being aloof and cold. But Moran didn't do anything. He just held onto him, like a treasure that had been recovered from a loss. This was the person that he had abandoned in his previous life. Shizun. After letting go of all the hatred of the past, Moran knelt before Chu Wanning, sincere, respectful, and even passionate. Shizun, I was wrong in the past. From now on, when you say go east, I'll go east. I'll be a good disciple as you wish me to be. Although Moran was still smiling, his eyes were a little moist. Just come back with me. Okay. Chu Wanning didn't say anything. His face was as calm as water, but his heart was aflame. Shizun. The young man's voice was very gentle, soft, and had a hint of youthful charm to it. When Moran hated someone, he really hated them. But to treat someone well is to give them your heart and soul. He has always been paranoid, always extreme. Promise to come back with me, will you? Chu Wanning remained silent, only looking down at him, seemingly lost in thoughts. Moran was afraid that Chu Wanning would be upset, so although his heart was sad, he still wore a smile on his face and did his best not to embarrass himself too much and create trouble for Shizun. He took his hand and shook it, teasing him and coaxing him, if Shizun is willing, then please nod your head. Moran was afraid he wouldn't nod, so he added, I'll count to 3, okay. If the master doesn't say anything, I'll take that as a yes. Moran said curtly and gently, pausing as he counted slowly. 1, 2, 3. But Chu Wanning is like a person who has been frozen for a long time, and when he is suddenly put into warm water, he felt pain instead of warmth. He's used to being alone, so he didn't feel bad when he was freezing, but once someone treated him well and wrapped him in warmth, it was as if he finally had the power to hurt, and suddenly every inch of flesh and blood ached and every inch of skin cracked. That was why he felt such pain. The tips of his fingers trembled slightly in Moran's gradually sweating palms. When Moran saw that he did not say anything, he became more and more nervous, fearing that he would be disheartened and would not want to return to the mortal realm. But he didn't dare move for fear that if he did, Chu Wanning would abandon him. Maintaining his smile, he said, I counted too fast, I don't think you were ready, I'll count again. 1, 2, 3. Chu Wanning. Moran's Adam's apple rolled. He too was trembling. He kept his smile as he almost pleaded, "Shizun, did you hear that?" Chu Wanning's phoenix eyes seemed to finally take on a look of clarity, but they still looked blank, staring fixedly into Moran's face without any expression. "I'm going to count again slowly, I'm afraid you didn't hear that." Moran then said, 1, 2, 3. "I'll count one last time. 1, 2, 3. It's really the last time. 1, 2, 3. Chu Wanning looked at the man kneeling in front of him, over and over again, counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 like a fool, as if by doing it all over again, he could turn back the time, make the dead wood bloom and bring the dead person to life again. The disciple in front of him, doggedly and vigorously counted. Clumsily and stubbornly as seemed to be counting his sins and the goodness with which his Shizun had treated him. At the end of the count, the voice is trembling and the smile seemed terrified. "Shizun." Moran tilted his head, his eyes were red, but he had already caused Chu Wanning so much grief, and he did not want to upset his Shizun by crying in front of a conscious Chu Wanning. He didn't want to make his Shizun sad again. Thus, he endured it and continued smiling, and talk in a tone that was as relaxed as if he was merely discussing something. "I'll count again, just pay attention to me, okay?" Chu Wanning was suddenly stabbed to the heart by such a plea. Almost frightened, he tried to pull his hand out of Moran's fingers. But Moran gripped him tightly, refusing to let go no matter what. The youth looked at him firmly, slowly, with unblinking eyes, with a dog-like persistence. He said, 1, 2. Suddenly, rapid footsteps, shouts, and curses came from outside. Chu Wanning suddenly raised his head and looked down at the sea of lights. Below, the army of ghost soldiers was chasing after them, heading straight where they were. Rongju finally caught a chance to rat on him. "Over there. Upstairs. Upstairs, dot. Catch that little thief. This is atrocious." Flustered and anxious, torches and ghostly images rolled over from the distance like a tide. They wanted to eat the two of them to death before entering the boundless infernal hell. But Moran did not turn back. At that moment when he was holding onto Chu Wanning's hand, he suddenly felt very calm. Although Chu Wanning was not his lover in this life, he was someone he loved and respected, someone who loved him and treated him well. He looked at him and his heart was steady. Chu Wanning scolded him, "Are you out of your mind? What are you doing kneeling there?" As he said that, he pulled Moran up from the ground. In the drifting light, his eyes were shining brilliantly and he looked exactly the same as when he was alive. Chu Wanning frowned and shouted, "We have to go." Moran froze for a moment. "We?" Chu Wanning is exasperated, who else could it be? Moran, in a daze, closed his eyes with a shudder, opened them again, and then suddenly smiled, a beautiful smile, eyes still tinged with watery mist, like a flower dipped in dew, a very beautiful flower. He finally let out a sigh of relief and held onto Chu Wanning's fingers tightly. 10 fingers intertwined. He pressed his forehead against Chu Wanning's and whispered, solemnly, 3. 3, what 3? Let's go. It was only after the numerous ghost soldiers had caught up to them that Moran turned his head to look back and said, "Shizun, first make a barrier to block them and then I'll transfer you to the soul-calling lantern." "I can't." "What?" Moran was dumbfounded. Chu Wanning grimaced, but still said, a little embarrassed and annoyed, "If I still had my spiritual powers, how could I be trapped in this cage?" "So that's it?" What is missing in the soul of Chu Wanning was his cultivation base. Chanting the incantation to put the soul into the lantern did not take long, however, it required that the chanting must not be interrupted. It is impossible to do so in the current situation, so Moran could only pull Chu Wanning to run away. Fortunately, Though Chu Wanning had lost his spiritual powers, he was still strong enough not to hold Mo Ran back. When they reached the entrance to the main hall, Chu Wanning asked, "Do you know the way?" Mo Ran said, "Not really." Chu Wanning. Mo Ran however was not discouraged and pointed to the towering palace wall and said, "Let's go up there to get a better view." Chu Wanning had a solid foundation, so even without the support of his cultivation base, it was not a problem for him to fly over the wall. He stepped lightly onto the roof tiles, looked down to see the ghost soldiers coming at them with angry howls, and said to Mo Ran, "Summon Jiangui." Mo Ran obeyed, and as his palms brushed together, a blinding scarlet radiance came out like a snake spitting its tongue out. The scarlet willow leaves fluttered in the air and the divine willow vine coiled around his feet. Spirit energy spans over 5 kilometers, enters the Kuki, gathers in Shangyang and draw down. Swish. Chu Wanning, as if suddenly thought of something, added, "Use less spiritual energy into it." Mo Ran was stunned at the words, but it was too late to retract his momentum. The moment it was thrown out, the hissing snake burst into flames, like a flaming dragon, roaring from Mo Ran's palm straight through the tide of ghost soldiers. The flaming tongues of fire almost burned up the entire corridor, as it moved across the ground and rose into the clouds. In the blink of an eye, the dozens of ghost soldiers who had been at the forefront, along with bricks and grass, were completely incinerated. Chu Wanning. Mo Ran. "Didn't I tell you to pour in less spiritual energy?" Chu Wanning said. Angrily with a frown. "When you said it, I had already." He suddenly remembered that he couldn't talk back to his Shizun and had to be respectful. Mo Ran bitterly shut his mouth and said, "Shizun is right. Thank you for the lesson." "Forget it." Chu Wanning waved his sleeves, "It's also because I spoke a little too late." It turned out that if he wanted his Shizun to give in, he just needed to take the blame first. He blinked and laughed. Chu Wanning glanced at him, "What are laughing at? We have to go." End chapter.